All right, if you're thinking about moving to Sacramento, California and buying a home, then stick with us because in today's video, we are covering the top 7 reasons or benefits that people just like you tell us why they love living in Sacramento. Look, Sacramento gets written off consistently as a government town, hot summers, and nowhere near the beach. And most people say that when they've never actually spent real time here. We chat with you guys every single week that are picking up and moving to the Sacramento area, and we hear some of the same benefits over and over again.
And it's not one type of person. It's Bay Area families who thought they were settling. It's people from out of state who weren't sure California would ever feel like home. And then they're here for a few months and they stop looking back.
Now we're breaking down those 7 things that make living here actually great. And we've got a surprise one at the very end because it's the one that catches everybody off guard, even people who have been here for years. So don't skip ahead because the buildup is worth it. All right, now let's start with the one thing that people always argue about with Sacramento, and that's gonna be the weather. Yeah, the summers suck. It's sweating down the middle of my back right now in July and August, and the average can be somewhere in the mid to high 90s. Sometimes we had 103, 104 yesterday, 104 the day before. But here's what people miss and when they complain about the heat. Sacramento does get over 230 days of sunshine per year. So spring is genuinely one of our favorite times in all of California, all of the year. Fall, again, you got that crisp weather right in September, October, November. Super fun to go out to Apple Hill, go pick out your Christmas tree. Now, the thing that we've had this conversation with a lot of you guys who are reaching out, especially from kind of like the Chicago, Minnesota, or even like the Northeast, the New Hampshire's, Maine area, our winters are mild. So we're talking 50s, maybe 60s. It's definitely not snow, and it's definitely not shoveling out your driveway and any of those crazy things that you guys may have to do in some of those colder states. So yes, while the heat does suck, not having to shovel snow in the wintertime is definitely nice, but for Lauren, it is a little bit cold.
But here's the thing that a lot of people don't tell you about, and that's gonna be that the Delta breeze is real. You can see it right now. It's a little bit windy. Almost every evening we get a cool breeze that comes in off the Sacramento Delta, and our temperatures do drop when nighttime hits. So you could have a 96-degree afternoon and then be sitting outside in the evening time or taking your pup for a walk. It does cool off enough to be able to actually go and enjoy the outdoors once the sun goes down. So it is real, it is consistent here, and it's one of the reasons that people who've been here for a few summers, they stop dreading summer once it gets here because they know that you get breaks in the morning and you get a little bit of a break at night from the hot heat. So you do learn how to use the city in the early mornings. Like a lot of people will go for walks on the trails, go for bike rides. Our daughter, who's a runner, she gets up early and is running at 6 a.m. to get her practice in. So you just kind of adjust your lifestyle based on what the weather looks like during the summer season. A lot of people enjoy pool afternoons if you have a pool, or they'll go to places like Sunsplash and enjoy the water slides, or one of the many aquatic centers that we have. We have a lot of aquatic centers in a lot of the suburbs across here. You've got one in Folsom, one in Roseville, one in Elk Grove. So even if you don't have a pool, there's definitely gonna be a place where you can go and cool off, or heck, enjoy one of the awesome lakes here.
Humidity is a real thing in a lot of parts of the country. And so like we went to Florida a couple months ago and it was like 80 degrees at 7 a.m. It was disgusting. Like, I wear a black shirt because I sweat a lot in these videos, but when I was wearing a black shirt, I was already sweating at 7. Yeah, I was already sweating at 7 in the morning. But then we flew back home that night and we got into Sacramento at 7 o'clock and it was 100 degrees outside, but you kind of had this like breeze. So in the shade, it's dry heat. So it's not bad, even when it's 100 degrees outside, and it's definitely nice. The other nice thing that we tell a lot of people, so pools are definitely a nice to have thing if you want one. Obviously you got to deal with the maintenance and some of those things, but a pool is a nice thing to have in the summertime. A lot of like the things that we'll talk about today's video, the culture of our lifestyle is a lot of outdoor backyard barbecues, hanging out by your pool, having a cocktail, having a drink. So like the pools are really nice. The other thing, especially with that Delta breeze that Lauren was talking about, is some of these homes will have a whole house fan. So that's different than your HVAC system, but whole house fans are really nice, especially in the spring and the fall. But you can actually turn that thing on. It'll suck in some of the cool air in the morning, push out all the hot air in the attic. And then it also keeps your temperature of your home down, but those are really nice to kind of get that cross cross-breeze traffic.
Now, one of the amazing things about living in the greater Sacramento metro is all of the outdoor access and the access you have to great recreational uses outside. You've got the American River Parkway, which runs 32 miles right through the metro. We're talking biking, running, walking, river access, and parks all along the way. And it's not just a loop in a subdivision. We're talking a real trail system through mature trees, open spaces, inside a major metro area. Then if you leave that area, you've got places in Folsom like where I'm at right now. This is Lake Natoma. You can see it behind me. You've got people paddleboarding, people canoeing, people swimming. You've got a lifeguard stand at the beach area. This is the perfect spot to go out and hang out with your family, especially if you've got younger aged kiddos, because they don't have motorboats on this water. And it's absolutely beautiful. They do call it Lake Natoma. It kind of looks a little bit more like a river just because it's not a big, massive circle. It kind of has more of that river feel to it, but it's absolutely stunning, and it's a great place to come out and enjoy time with your family. Heck, we were just here a couple weeks ago for the 4th of July. It was so fun to see fireworks because they shoot up over this area. There were people on paddle boards in the water at 9:30 at night with lights on them that were watching the fireworks show from the actual lake, which was super cool. Now, on top of Lake Natoma here, you have a big trail system out here as well that connects all across Folsom. Then you also have Folsom Lake, which has access from Granite Bay, and that's gonna be where a lot of the major lake boating is gonna happen because boats are allowed on that lake, especially when the water's high enough. Now, we have had some summers where we've had droughts where the water's been low and they don't allow motorboats on that water. Now, maybe hanging out at the lake or going to the river isn't your vibe. Maybe you've got little kids and you just want to get outside and enjoy a park. One of the awesome things is that it doesn't matter which specific suburb you land in. Maybe you're in Elk Grove, maybe you're in Rockland, Roseville, Lincoln, El Dorado Hills. All of these areas have a ton of parks that are built into them, and a lot of these parks offer splash pads. So during the summer, you can bring your small kids out there. You can hang out at the park and cool off at the splash pad. There's so many outdoor things to do here. Now, if you're a big cyclist, Folsom is known for its cycling. There's so many paved trails out here that are shaded by a ton of trees, and there's a lot of different cycling groups, running groups all across the greater Sacramento metro. So as you can see, outdoor access isn't just a thing that you plan for the weekend here, it's a part of your actual week, especially if you figure out the specific areas that you want to go to and hang out in. And then if you zoom out a little bit further, we're only 2 hours from Lake Tahoe, where you can go skiing, snowboarding, you can hit up the lake out there. Definitely a little bit chiller, a little bit cooler temperature, but still tons of outdoor access and hiking and world-class hiking and tons of things to do. We're only 2 hours from San Francisco, so if you want to go hit up the city or enjoy the bay. We also have Apple Hill in El Dorado County, which is another fun place to take your family during the fall. You've got gold country towns in every single direction. You can hit up some of the places like Coloma, where you can learn all about gold rush history and enjoy outdoor time with your family there. And then you've got Folsom Lake, which is practically in your backyard depending on which specific suburb you're living in. So as you can see, Sacramento isn't just a city, it's a base camp. There's so many different things to do where you can get out and enjoy your everyday lifestyle, not just stuck at home. We're not like Southern California, where I have tons of friends that live down there and they're maybe 40 miles to the beach, but because of the traffic, it's just too much and they never ever go. So they just live like hermit crabs in their homes. That is not the lifestyle here. Here you can get out and enjoy everything this specific area has to offer. Even if you're not living in Folsom, maybe you're living in Lincoln, but you love to go boating, you're still a quick, easy access to get to Folsom Lake to go boating or to go to one of the many other lakes that are in this area. So one of the great things is the outdoor access here and all the outdoor recreation that the greater Sacramento metro has to offer.
Now, Sacramento was named the farm to fork capital of the world, and the title has a lot of meaning. Some of the best farmland in the entire country is literally right outside of the city limits, which means the produce is fresh and the chefs and the restaurants show it. Sacramento has 15 Michelin recognized restaurants right now. The Midtown Farmers Market runs 5 city blocks every Saturday with over 200 vendors. It's the best one in the state. I think it's the number 3 one in the country. Our Street Corridor, Old Town Folsom, historic downtown, Gami Burger behind me. The food scene here is just as good, and most people don't expect it. Now, here's the thing about Sacramento. It's one of the most diverse cities in the entire state, which means the food and the culture is going to reflect that. Vietnamese, Hmong, Mexican, Korean, Ethiopian, Filipino, Asian fusion. Some of the best food in Sacramento is in strip malls with no signage, and it looks like a little hole in the wall place. Now, the nice thing is the locals know exactly where to find it. There are so many different restaurants that I absolutely love in Sacramento. We just had Gami Burger. This is probably one of my favorite burger, hands down. You also have Origami, which is going to be over in kind of East Sacramento area, but tons of good food. And this is just one example, whether it's breakfast, whether it's Iketas, whether it's The Porch, all these different restaurants, Chef's Table out in Rockland, tons of really good restaurants. And I think that's where a lot of what makes Sacramento super special is the diversity in the food, the restaurants, the meals that you share with friends. Those are all going to be things that will make your experience here much different than any other place that you're considering moving, or if you're thinking about buying a house here. Now, real quick before we keep going, if this is your first time on the channel, we're Lance and Lauren with the Living in Sacramento team, where we make these videos for you guys about what it's really like moving, living, relocating to the Sacramento and surrounding suburbs. Especially if you're thinking about buying here, we help hundreds of people buy and sell homes right here in the greater Sacramento metro. So we drop videos every single week, so you have real boots on the ground info so you can make the best decision possible. Now, on top of making these videos, we're also licensed real estate agents in the state of California, which means that as much as we love making these videos, we love helping you more with all of your real estate needs. So that phone number is up. We get phone calls, emails, and text messages from people just like you that have questions, you're thinking about moving, you want more information, or you can scan the QR code that'll be up on the screen. We'll put together a strategy call and help you put together the best game plan for what it looks like on making the move to the greater Sacramento metro. Now, another thing that throws a lot of people off about the Sacramento region is that when they think that suburbs are kind of just this big, beige, boring grid that all feels the same, and that couldn't be farther from the truth, because Sacramento suburbs don't really work out that way. So each one can kind of be its own city and its own individual kind of like bubble and its own, right? So you've got Folsom, we're down here at the historic Folsom on the river. You've got Palladio at Broadstone. You've got over 50 miles of paved trails just kind of in this like section, and it's all kind of around Folsom Lake and Lake Natoma. And that's one of the benefits of why people really kind of are attracted to Folsom, is it's not necessarily like the house itself, but it's also the lifestyle that you get. Then you flip it over to like a place like Roseville, where you have the Galleria, you have the fountains, you have Kaiser and Sutter right there within the city limits. So if you're in healthcare, that's also an important thing, because you don't really have to commute that far. And then you got that really good like dining and retail scene that, you know, it's just really like a surprise. Like we talked about food, but Roseville and that area definitely has like a really killer dining scene. And
then you've got El Dorado Hills, which has amazing views. It has an awesome town center and just a completely different feel than Folsom or Roseville. And then up in El Dorado Hills, you have the Serrano Golf Course, and you have a ton of open space. You have gated communities, you have a guard gated community, and you just have a different characteristic up there of the type of home. If you want something that potentially has a view, because you're starting to climb up towards the Sierra Nevadas, you can start to get a little bit of a view depending on the neighborhood in that area. So El Dorado Hills is going to give you a little bit different than what a Roseville or a Folsom can offer you. And then you have Elk Grove, which has genuinely a completely different feel. You've got strong parks there. You've got an old town spot where it kind of has like a charming little community vibe. You've got District 56, which has become a huge gathering space where they do a ton of events. You've got the aquatic center there. You've got one of the most diverse communities in all of Sacramento County, but Elk Grove has a completely different feel. It's more flat. It starts to feel a little bit more like the Central Valley, and you're an easy commute to the Bay Area if that's something that you need to get to. Then you also have Rockland, Lincoln, and Auburn, and they all have their own thing. So Rockland's gonna be a little bit more of like kind of small town, doesn't have a ton of things. You know, it's really just your house and maybe your grocery store. And then for things to do, you're gonna be going outside of Rockland to maybe get to Roseville or some of the neighboring areas. So it's a little bit quieter. And then you're gonna have Lincoln, which has really massively grown, especially since we lived up there. They pretty much have everything you need now. You don't really have to leave Lincoln unless you need a Costco. You also have rural living up there, which is nice. So if you want something with a little more acreage, something with a little more land, your buck's gonna go a little bit further in Lincoln than some of these other areas like a Loomis or a Newcastle. Another suburb that we've seen a lot of people relocating to is gonna be Auburn, which is gonna have more of that foothill living. It's gonna give you definitely a different vibe. It's gonna have a different feel.
The nice thing about some of these suburbs that we've touched on in the past and in some of these videos is they're all self-sufficient, right? So that for the most part, they all have their Costco's, they all have their Targets and their Home Depots and everything that you would need. And really the thing that kind of maybe pulls you out of some of these suburbs, once you kind of figure out if it's the right suburb for you, is going to be your work, right? And we talk a lot about that on some of the map tour videos, and we talk about some of that on some of your one-on-one strategy calls. Is like, sometimes people are very corridor specific, where they're like, hey, I'm only going to be living and working off of the 80 corridor, or I'm really going to be living and working off of the 50 corridor. So some of that really will factor into, you know, maybe what area of town that you might lean to. Some people like to go snowboarding, they like to go skiing, they like to spend some time. And then you got Auburn, right? So Auburn, we touched on that a couple videos back, where it's just really that kind of like anchor spot on the foothills on your way up to, like, you know, Reno and North Lake Tahoe and everything that's kind of up in that section of the 80 freeway. But, you know, you're not picking Sacramento as a whole, you're kind of picking the version that's actually going to fit your lifestyle the best.
And if you're moving here with kids, or you're planning it, or maybe you're gonna have kids someday in the future, Sacramento definitely checks a lot of boxes that actually matter. You've got strong school districts across the greater Sacramento metro. Really doesn't matter which suburb you land in. A lot of these areas have really strong schools. You've got community parks everywhere. You've got youth sports programs that are gonna be in every single city that we talk about on this channel. And they're all properly funded and run, and you've got tons of volunteers that operate a lot of these programs. So if you've got kids, this is gonna be a great area to land in, whether it's Roseville, Rockland, Lincoln, you know, Elk Grove, El Dorado Hills, Granite Bay, it doesn't matter. A lot of these areas have strong academics and strong sports programs for your kiddos.
Now, the one thing that we want to tell you, especially when it comes to like school districts, we always tell, you know, families this, but, you know, verify the exact assignment for any address that you're considering, right? So for the most part, you know, with Granite Bay, most of it does go to Granite Bay. There are certain parts of Granite Bay that do go up to Loomis, but, you know, with that being said, long story long, you want to make sure that you are verifying the lines. You know, City of Roseville just had some line changes as it relates to some of the high schools, especially with some of those new construction areas. Lines can change street to street, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense. So broadly across the region, the school situation is strong. They're, you know, I would say above average in most scenarios. Every once in a while, you'll kind of, you know, find ones that aren't. But beyond the schools and the family infrastructure, it's just a good kind of situation for everywhere. So, you know, parks are everywhere. Youth sport leagues are very prominent and very well organized. Then you got the Mosaic Science Museum downtown, you got Fairy Tale Town, you got events throughout the year, farmers markets, tons of things that you can do where Sacramento is definitely built around families, and it still feels that way. So again, verify your addresses for your school district specifically. If you're moving here and you don't have the help from like grandma and grandpa, you definitely want to look into daycare sooner rather than later. So just a couple of things that we'll cover on your strategy session that'll make your life a lot easier when moving to this area. All right, now Sacramento's cost of living runs about 24% above the national average. So Sacramento definitely is not the cheap option all the time, but it is roughly about 14% below the California average. So compared to places like the Bay Area, LA, San Diego, or heck, even Orange County, the difference is real. Now, the thing that we hear from a lot of you guys, I will say a good majority of you guys are coming in from other parts of California. So you're kind of familiar with the like more expensive lifestyle, and you're just not ready to give up on California yet. But the family that couldn't touch a 2-bedroom in San Jose is buying a 4-bedroom house with a real yard and a backyard and possibly a pool for a mortgage that actually works. It's not just about the housing here, although that is a big part of your financial picture. We're talking about groceries, we're talking about gas, we're talking about utilities, and also dining out. It all adds up to a bigger thing. Now, all of it typically comes in lower than what you were spending before. Now, we see the look on people's faces all the time when they look at the monthly payment, and it actually works with their scenario. So that stress that you've been carrying around for years, it finally lifts off. Now, the cool thing that we tell a lot of people is you can still afford to live in California. You can still afford to have some of the great weather. There are some downsides to California that we all know about, but you know, the nice thing about Sacramento is it does give you that affordability lifestyle. So in certain parts of Sacramento, you can still find homes between 450 and 600, and then between 600 and $1 million, you can have a lot of different really good options. All right, now, so we're halfway through the video, and the next few things on the list are the ones that people never mention in a video like this. So these are things that come up constantly when we're actually sitting down and talking with you guys during your strategy sessions, or even some of the people who have actually reached out to us from YouTube. They've already moved here and they've been here for a few years. These are some of the things that they've actually loved the most. Some of the day-to-day stuff that you're not thinking about, and these are things that you're not going to find on a blog. All right, now let's talk about what there actually is to do here, because that's probably one of the things that people underestimate the most about Sacramento. Now, while we aren't a major sports team, Sacramento is an NBA city, so Kings games here and the energy here is real. Light the Beam is a whole thing, and when the Kings are rolling, the whole city feels it. Then for the time being, we do have the A's that are playing over at Sutter Health Park. That's directly across the river until 2027. So you've got real MLB games, you've got affordable tickets, and sometimes it's actually pretty cool because you can see maybe a bigger or a major metro team that's coming into the area to come play them. So we have had the Giants here, we have had the Yankees and the Red Sox and some of those things. So it's a setting that honestly beats a lot of major league ballparks because it sits there right there on the river. Then you have the Republic FC, which while the World Cup's going on, it definitely has a real fan base here in the Sacramento Metro.
Now, beyond sports, Sacramento has more going on than most people expect. You've got over 800 murals all across the city. It's absolutely stunning. You can take a walk and check out some amazing art without ever going into a building. Now, not all of the art is in designated art districts. Like I said, you've got it on buildings, alleys, overpasses, through walkways. It's actually really cool. Walking Midtown can often feel like a gallery that forgot to charge admission. Then you've got really cool places like the Crocker Art Museum, which is one of the oldest in the West, and it's legitimately world class. They're constantly changing their exhibits. So if you go every couple months, you're always gonna see something new there. You also have the Railroad Museum, and then you have the Capitol, which not a lot of people realize, but you actually can go inside of our Capitol and you can see all of the history there. Check out the amazing building and everything that's been done.
Yeah, a couple of the cool things that are really fun to do, especially the second Saturday of every month, you've got the second Saturday Art Walk. That's also another cool thing. You can sip on some wine, you can check out some local artists, you can check out different kind of like pop-ups. It's like kind of like an evening time like farmers market that you can go check out too. So that's also really cool. Second Saturday of every month is definitely a fun thing to check out if you're in town for that particular Saturday.
Now, the city has more history than most people ever get to. Sacramento is one of the most diverse cities in the country, and you feel it here in the food, the neighborhoods, the events. Our city is genuinely welcoming with people from all different walks of life.
Now, the part that changes how people think about Sacramento entirely is more or less proximity and where it sits on the map. So the cool thing is, or if you're indecisive or you don't really have kind of a theme or thing that you're wanting to do, we're 2 hours away from Lake Tahoe, we're 2 hours away from San Francisco, we're about 3 hours away from Yosemite, an hour and a half away from Napa, about 3 hours away from the Redwoods. So a lot of people that reach out to us from the channel, like you guys, a lot of them really like to go to national and state parks. So we're kind of sit in a really good location where you can check out a lot of things that, you know, maybe where you're coming from didn't have as much access to. You can leave Sacramento on a Friday. You can be standing on the edge of Lake Tahoe by sunset and you can be back by Sunday night. We've had a lot of people that in theory, not that you would want to do this, but you could be snowboarding at Lake Tahoe in the morning and you can be down at the beach in the afternoon or evening time by like 4 or 5 o'clock if you timed it right. So it is about a 4-hour drive straight across the state, but in theory you could, you know, see snow in the morning and then see the ocean in the afternoon.
Yeah, we have a lot of clients who've actually relocated here, and that's one of the things that we get feedback on all the time, is that once they're here, they found their house, they found their spot in their community, but they love being able to explore all that Northern California has to offer with a home base that's this close to Sacramento. Like he said, you can go south, you can go north, you can go east, you can go west, and you can experience a completely different part of California within a day's trip. Also, within an hour or two, you've got state and national parks in basically every single direction. You've got Folsom Lake State Recreation Area, Auburn State Recreation Area, Lake Oroville. So if you like to go boating, there's so many different boating opportunities up here to be able to check out so many different really cool lakes. Push a little bit further east and you're in the Sierra Nevada. You've got Tahoe National Forest, El Dorado National Forest. Yeah, like he said, Yosemite, if you want to take a day trip, you can actually make it there in a day and make it back home. You can go south towards the Coast Range and you can find a ton of different really cool places out there. So Sacramento isn't just a city, it's where you base yourself to access all of California. And we have so many clients who've moved here who I love following them even on their social media. One of our specific clients that moved to Plumas Lake, I swear every single weekend, their cute little family is in a different area in Northern California, experiencing everything that it has to offer.
You know, there's a lot of things to do in Sacramento, and a lot of it is, I would say, outdoor related, and a lot of it because the weather does give you a lot of freedom, right? Your spring and your fall, like we talked about at the very beginning of this video, is amazing. It's some of the best weather that I've ever experienced anywhere in the country. Summers can be a little hot here. The winter months when it's raining, it's not very fun. You're not doing like the patio brunch thing that you would do in the spring or the fall, but you know, you can still head up to Tahoe, you can still go snowboarding. So there's a lot of things that revolves around outdoor activity, health, fitness, active lifestyle, right? Thing. So like most people don't actually think about it until they're actually here, but they also wonder why they didn't make the move sooner when they realize that like there's so much things to do here and your lifestyle actually starts to have a little bit more freedom.
Now, go ahead and drop a comment right now. Which one of these benefits surprised you the most? Or if you've been here for a while, what's the one thing that you would add for people that are relocating here? We genuinely read every single comment, and the answers help us make better videos when we learn a little bit more about you guys and what you guys like to do.
All right, now the next few benefits on this list are going to be ones that you guys who reach out to us from the channel constantly tell us that you absolutely love about Sacramento. So if you haven't moved here yet, you're going to want to make sure that you stay tuned for those. Let's jump into a category that not a lot of people like to talk about, but let's talk about kind of the job market. So Sacramento state government is entirely real. There's about 70,000 state jobs just in the Sacramento area alone, but that's definitely not the entire picture of the whole story. So another one that we hear a lot of you guys reach out to us about is going to be healthcare. So you have different healthcare places like UC Davis Medical Center, Kaiser, Sutter, Dignity Health, all are major employers here. And a lot of them are actually on a hiring blitz right now. So Kaiser is finishing the new rail yards that's just going to be north of downtown Sacramento. You've got places that are building up new facilities. I think UC Davis is out in Folsom. You've got Kaiser and a Sutter Hospital in Roseville. The Kaiser Roseville is constantly adding new things. I feel like they're taking over that entire block. But they're all major employers here. So we have you guys reaching out from nursing to doctors to anesthesiologists, CNAs, heck, even IT workers at these places because they all need that infrastructure. So every kind of job is probably hiring. Now, one of the other things that I thought was kind of interesting that you guys have mentioned before is typically in healthcare or typically in that region, for whatever reason, Sacramento is also kind of paying a higher. Now, I don't have the numbers to back this up, but this has just been kind of a common underlying theme, just that pops up in conversation where, maybe they're evaluating 4 or 5 different cities in the state of California. You've got your Orange counties and your Bay Areas and your San Diegos or whatnot, right? And they're looking, and then it turns out that Sacramento is actually paying more than a lot of these other areas within the state. And then you're kind of getting a double pay bump because then you're also saving money on the cost of living because out of those 4 or 5 areas that you might be considering, Sacramento ends up being the cheapest for cost of living. Now we're also seeing a lot of tech move and relocate here. So it does have a definite footprint here. Obviously Intel has always had a major campus in Folsom, even though they're downsizing, it's still a massive kind of influx. You have Apple campus down in Elk Grove, you have an HP campus over in Roseville, and you have an Oracle campus over in Rockland, and they all kind of tie into different parts of the region. We've had people move from Romania for Oracle, we've had people move from the Bay Area for Intel, we've had people move from Southern California for HP or Apple. So all kind of there. We've had people move from out of state for Micron Technology. So you have all of those little things, right? Then we've talked about it before. This is kind of like a tech and a healthcare thing, but then you have Aggie Square that just opened up in 2025. It's a $1.1 billion innovation district right next to the UC Davis Med Center down there. So more jobs, more research, more reasons for people and options to actually choose here. So now the other benefit that a lot of people really kind of like maximized in 2020 was going to be remote work. Now remote work changed everything, guys. Now, if your income is tied to kind of like that Bay Area or LA salary, but you can work from anywhere as long as it's within the state of California, Sacramento stops being a backup plan for a lot of people and it starts becoming like an obvious like choice, right? I get Bay Area income, but I get the Sacramento cost of living for my gas and my housing and all of those different things. So Bay Area income, Sacramento cost of living, a 4-bedroom house with a yard. We saw a lot of people during COVID come up here from the Bay Area. They took their Bay Area income and they were able to find a better quality of life and a better living. So we've watched that math change hundreds of families' lives, and with the right job, the right corridor, and the right section of Sacramento, it can definitely change yours as well. Now, before we get to that bonus one, if any of this is landing for you or if Sacramento is even remotely on your radar, don't try to figure this out by yourself or looking at a bunch of Zillow listings. We help people make this move every single week.
Yeah, so we help people make this move every single week. We help you figure out which area is gonna fit your specific lifestyle, which schools are gonna line up with things that your kids actually are involved in or like to do, which suburb is gonna make the most sense specifically for your commute and your overall lifestyle. So call us, text us, email us, scan the QR code on the screen and book a real conversation with us. Even if you're months out, even if you're a year out, that call always helps more than another hour of research. It helps us to really dial in specifically to your needs.
All right, now the last one, the big reveal, number 8, the bonus one that we told you that we would save until the very end. And this one is going to be the hardest to explain, especially if you haven't lived here yet. But the biggest thing for Sacramento is it's going to give you your time back.
Now, in a lot of major California cities, time is the thing that quickly disappears. And you know that if you live in Southern California, you know that if you live in the Bay Area. Our traffic here is nothing like any of those places. 2 hours in traffic, specifically in some of those areas. It can take an hour to find parking, 45 minutes to get somewhere that should have been 15 minutes. So you're definitely gonna wanna stop doing things, or you stop doing things not because you don't want to, but because logistics aren't working for you. And Sacramento never does that to you.
But specifically, we had a family from the South Bay. Dad was commuting 90 minutes each way every single day. They moved to Folsom. He had a drive of 25 minutes. So about 6 months in, definitely felt like he got his life back. We've heard versions of that more times than we can count. Like, that's one of the biggest things, especially when you guys have made your trips. You guys ask us that question like, hey, where's your traffic, right? Locals will complain about it. They'll bitch about it all the time. But for the most part, if you're coming from a major city that's actually got real traffic, you'll be pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, here, like we said, you're gonna get your time back. You get more evenings with your family, more weekend mornings that actually feel like mornings instead of logistic sessions on trying to get your kid to their sporting events, more dinners where nobody's still in the car at 7 p.m. You know, Sacramento, it's not just a cheaper city. It's a city where your life has more room in it. And for most people, that turns out to be what they actually came here for without even knowing it. You get that family lifestyle back.
That's what we mean when people stop comparing Sacramento to everywhere else and just say it feels like home, because they don't have to deal with a lot of the other crap in a lot of the other places. So definitely a lot of things. I know we travel a lot, and when we come home, it just feels good.
So that was just 8 benefits. And honestly, we could keep going on and on. There's so much more to Sacramento than the headline version or what the locals tell you. And the people who take time to actually figure it out are usually the ones who end up never leaving Sacramento. So if you're thinking about this move, we would love to be the ones help you get it right.
Call us, text us, email us, anyone on our team, scan the QR code. We'll have a real conversation about what this actually looks like for you and your situation. Figure out your job, figure out your schools, figure out anything that matters as it relates to your needs, your wants, your must-haves, and your deal breakers. But if you're still in research mode, keep going right here on the channel. That playlist on the screen right now is going to be the breakdown of every single community in the greater Sacramento metro, suburb by suburb, neighborhood by neighborhood, the Folsoms, the Rosevilles, the Elk Groves, El Dorado Hills, Granite Bay, Rockland, East Sacramento, and more. So make sure you check that out right there, and we'll see you on the next one.